welcome back to Premier League Primetime. And as we can see right here, we have a team that I just love. I love with a very strong passion. And if we're getting Liverpool on, I may as well get a very passionate fan on. I'm very happy to be joined by this man here, for I have been for ages and wondering when this lad is going to come on. But big himself up because he is because he's come on and yeah, I'm buzzing to have this man on. Man like Liam, how are you, my guy?
I'm doing good. Happy to be on and just chat about some football.
Yeah, that's what all of our guests love doing. But if there's one person that loves chatting about the Premier League, it's yours truly. So, anyways, let's get right into this. So we're looking at your team, your club, Liverpool. And I have about 10 names here. And Liverpool, no doubt, in dire need of a summer overhaul, just by looking at the results and how they've been doing this season. We won't go too much into that. But they did have a very, very good performance against Manchester United with a very depleted squad, winning by 4-2. You can imagine my reaction when I saw ice cold Bobby Firmino score right before the half and then right after halftime. The viewers could imagine how my reaction would be to that. And before we start, actually, I want to ask you, what were your thoughts on the game? I'm guessing you were absolutely buzzing with the performance at Old Trafford.
Of course. I mean, Liverpool, as you mentioned, have had a rough stretch of form since about the Christmas period. So it's been difficult having about 2 years of pretty much nonstop success out of the Reds, and now having this period where we're kind of struggling for points, especially at home against these bottom tier teams. So to pull off a win like that, 4-2, like you said, away at Old Trafford was really something, and especially in the circumstances of now we need to win out in order to guarantee Champions League football next season. So, I mean, just getting a result like that, especially against a team like United, who, like you said, depleted, but I mean, have been playing well of late and have pretty much guaranteed that second spot in the Prem. So, I mean, I was in school, so I wasn't able to watch the match, but I was following along on that One Football app. So I was getting those results
too.
and chatting with my dad. So I was pretty buzzing, and especially that Salah goal late really sealed it because Rashford got me nervous there for a second with that 3-2. But I mean, I was very happy with the result.
You want to know what got me nervous? When we needed a goal, and Donny van de Beek is like, Ollie, I'm here. Pick me. I'm here on the bench. I'm right here. And apparently, our super sub Matic just goes in, and we put McTominay at center back, and Matic was the one who lost the ball for the fourth goal, which I was just completely bamboozled by that. But anyways, let's get into these 10 names that we got here. These 10 names, just simple. Would you have them stay or would you have them go? We'll start with Adrian. And what a nightmare stint at Anfield. Would that be an understatement? This guy does not have the most fond memories in the hearts of Liverpool fans. Lots and lots of mistakes this guy has cost. He came in to replace Simon Mignolet as the backup to number one Alisson, who is goated, by the way, for scoring for literally the reason why Liverpool are in a title race.
What a header. What a header.
SMH right now. But what would you do with Adrian? Would you say, sign him to a new short year deal, or would you say, nah, thanks for everything, see you later?
Like you said in the intro there, definitely has made a lot of mistakes. The ones that are coming to mind are definitely away at Atletico Madrid in the second leg of our Champions League round of 16 game 2 years ago. Defending champions of the Champions League, and then we go out in the round of 16 against Atletico and mostly because of a couple Adrian mistakes, but those are just a couple. So in my opinion, I wouldn't be sad to see him go. I think that Kilman Kelleher has really earned the spot at number 2. I know he's young, but I think he has a lot of potential, and when he's been up to the when he's been put in situations, especially in the Champions League, he's really delivered. And so I think I wouldn't be too sad to see Adrian go, to be fair.
Yeah, and that name you said there, Kelleher, that young lad, that performance against Ajax, that was a brilliant
It was a
performance.
beauty, yeah.
Kept a clean sheet as well. I mean, for a youngster to come in and that's how you make your debut in a really important Champions League game. Um, that's just crazy in my opinion. I'd probably say the same if I were a Liverpool fan, but yeah, Keller is definitely on the number 2, and Adrian, I think he'll, I don't know, probably go back to Spain and I don't know, find a Spanish team to be the goalkeeper.
And
Um,
if I'm not mistaken, I believe that we have Loris Karius is still on loan from
oh,
Besiktas. So I wouldn't be, although he is not the greatest goalkeeper we've ever had, and most Liverpool fans hate him because of what happened in the Champions League final. But I wouldn't be too disappointed if he came back permanently to be the number 3, because I think he does have some potential. He just kind of gets flustered in big moments. But if he came back as the number 3, I wouldn't be too disappointed, honestly.
all right, yeah, fair enough. Let's get into the next one. Joel Madsip, Mr. Injury Prone himself. I swear on my life, I feel like Joel Madsip could injure himself, as he's in the gym rolling out his hamstring, or if he's
True.
stretching his calf. This guy's always injured. Decent player, but he's not getting any younger. But still decent enough. Would you say, yeah, I'll keep you around, or would you say thanks for everything, see you later, and upgrade and get better?
Yeah, he's another one of those ones that's become out of favor due to injury. And because of Liverpool's injuries, especially at the center back position this year, we've had to bring in a lot of new players uh, and promote some younger players like Reese Williams, Nathaniel Phillips, like we're going to talk about later. But I think, like you said, he's not getting any younger. His injury status seems to be bad every week, and especially when we need him this year, it would have been really nice to have him as the big Joel, the presence at the back. But I mean, he just can't seem to get healthy and stay healthy consistently. And so I think he's another one that's going to have to go this summer, and his place will be taken by a younger, more fit center back.
Yeah. And speaking of a younger, more spit center back, Ozan Kabak came in January because Liverpool were in dire need of a center back. I mean, they were playing Jordan Henderson at center back. That's how desperate they were. And Kabak coming in on loan from now relegated Bundesliga side Schalke. Um, um, and he's coming on loan. He's had some good games. He's had some bad games. But there's an option there to sign for 18 million pounds. If you were Jurgen Klopp, would you tell John Henry and all of them, yeah, pay the 18 million. I want to keep this guy, or would you say, nah, thanks for everything. Go back to Schalke.
I mean, I think Liverpool made the right move with the loan agreement with the option to buy rather than just going for the transfer all out. And I think he does have a lot of potential. Like you said, Schalke, where he came from, was relegated. Are known for, especially in Germany, they had one of the worst defensive records, I think, in Europe this year. And so he was coming from a place where he really had no one to mentor him. And so I feel like Kabak alongside of a Van Dijk or even a Gomez could really improve. But alongside Phillips, who's also young, he didn't really have the performances that we were looking from him. So I think I would pass on making his loan deal permanent, just because we do have a lot of center backs that are coming back from injury. And in my opinion, I don't think he really proved himself, and he did end up getting injured in his time at Liverpool. And I'm forgetting I don't know why I'm spacing on his name right now, but I'm pretty sure we signed a center back or are
Ibrahima
going
Konate.
to. Yes, so he's another player that's going to be coming in, and I don't see Kabak really making the impact that we need long term.
All right. And next, and arguably the best center back in world football, Nat Phillips. What more can I say about this guy? He's come in horrific circumstances, and let's be real. He's been making that center back spot his own because there is nobody else to compete with. But he's definitely been the best of. I think he's been better than Kabak in my opinion. People can call me crazy. I think Nat Phillips has been better than Kabak. He's been better than Williams, and and Ben Davies hasn't even gotten a game, so we can't really compare. But he's done a decent job. Still very very young. Was going to go on loan, but then Jurgen Klopp said no. I need him here. Would you keep him or would you loan him out when everybody returns fit?
Well, here's one of the players that I am definitely keeping. Like you said, arguably the best center back in world football. That's not even a question, in my opinion. Definitely the best center back. But I think he's really progressed in the month since Van Dijk and Gomez have been out, and Madsip as well, for that matter. And he's really just shown progression, and I really like the way he plays. He's a physical center back, who plays somewhat like Virgil van Dijk, really bosses the pitch. The one thing he is lacking is that recovery pace. He seems to get caught out a little bit, and he also, especially with these younger center backs like Reece Williams and with Kabak, they seem to lose their marks a little bit more than I would like, especially on those deeper searching crosses. So, but I think he's definitely has to stick around, and I think he'd be a really good third choice or fourth choice center back when all of our center backs are healthy. And who knows if Van Dijk is going to be fully fit for the start of next season. So I think keeping Phillips around, getting some of that continuity at center back would be really good for the club.
Yeah. If Liverpool got rid of this guy, the fans would be just up in arms. They'd be losing his mind.
Can't.
Next you have James Milner. Like Joe Madsip and unlike Joe Madsip. We'll start with the unlike. Unlike Joe Madsip, he's been regularly fit throughout the season. But the one thing that he is like Joe Madsip, he's 100% not getting any younger. He's 33, 34 years old. He's been just he's the kind of guy who's just gonna play forever. I think like a summer or two ago, in like the preseason like bleep tests, like James Milner recorded to be like either the quickest or the most fit player in those tests. So he's still good enough to be at the highest level, but in terms of age and sell-on value, would you keep him around, or would you just say, thanks for everything, you've been a great servant to the club, but out the door?
This is a tough one. Like you said, his age, he's I think closing on 34. And if he was a little bit older, maybe I would say let's give him a year, maybe two, and let's let him retire at the club, or bid farewell to Liverpool and maybe go to the MLS, do a Stevie G on us, and just have a year at the Galaxy or something like that. But because of his age, and like you said, he's physically fit, and he does have some good playing time in him still. I think with given his age and Liverpool's kind of renewed strength in midfield, with the signing of Thiago and Fabinho back playing in midfield, as depends on what happens with Wijnaldum, but and then Curtis Jones kind of emerging as a new Liverpool youngster midfielder. I think James Milner would have to go, given his age and, like I said, that new strength in midfield. I just don't think he has what it takes to compete for, especially for a full 90 minutes, and maintain that quality like other players on the squad have.
And another thing not to mention about James Milner is that he's Mr. Adaptable. I mean, Jurgen Klopp's on him at left back, at right back, on the wings, and he's done a job there as well.
That's true. I mean, that's a that's a fair point, but Liverpool have resources both on, like, at the wing backs that they haven't really used. We signed Kostas Tsimikas from Olympiacos last season. He's barely played at left back. I think he could be an asset there if he's developed a little more. Nico Williams, who I'm not super fond of, but Klopp seems to like him, has at the right wing. So you're right. If the I he is kind of a Swiss Army knife player for us. He can play in a lot of different positions, but I just, with his age and his form, really, I just don't see him sticking around.
All right. Next we have Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. In the summer of 2017, Arsenal go away to Liverpool. They lose by 4-0. Surprise, surprise, when Wenger was still around. And Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain had been asked a lot of questions about his future, and he wasn't sure if he was going to sign a new contract. And then right before the window goes, Arsenal do what they typically do. They negotiate with Premier League rivals, and they sold him for a record, I think, of £40 million for Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. And he's been a decent servant to the club since he's come in. Had a very good first season. A second season not as great just because of that injury. And then he's just kind of been, further and further down the pecking order, but still, a very good squad player to have. What's your verdict on Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain?
Now, this is a player that I actually see sticking around. Like you said, he had a pretty horrific knee injury in the end of 2018 or beginning of
Mm-hmm.
2019
Ruled
season, I
out of the
believe.
World Cup because he definitely
Yeah.
gone to the World Cup.
Yes, it was ACL, I believe. His knee was pretty much blown out. So he's still kind of struggling with that. And like you said, he's kind of fallen down the pecking order, especially with the introduction of Thiago Alcantara, Thiago is almost like a more uh, a Spanish, we'll just say a Spanish version of Oxlade-Chamberlain, because I think maybe Thiago is who Chamberlain wishes he could be. But I do like Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. He scored some very clutch goals, especially at Man City games for us. And I think when he's fit, he does bring good energy when he's subbed off the pitch, and when he subbed onto the pitch, especially later in matches when we need that extra spark. I think he would have been a good addition instead of Sheridan Shaqiri in the match at Burnley. So I think he will stick around. I don't know if he'll see as much playing time, but I think he will be a vital substitute when we need an extra spark a little bit later in matches.
All right. Next we have putting Joel Matip aside, we have Mr. Injury himself, Naby Keita. Came in for, I think, a mouthwatering £60 million from RB Leipzig in the summer of 2018, but the deal was agreed back in 2017, that season before, for around £60 million or whatnot. And he's come in, he's taken the number 8 off of a certain legendary Englishman. This random guy, named Steven Gerrard. Somehow I don't really know. I've never really heard of him.
Yeah, me neither.
And he hasn't really lived up to what that number 8 is, and what it means for Liverpool. He's constantly been plagued by injuries. He's always good performance, good game, bad game, good game, bad game, and it's just there's never really an in between with Naby Keita. What's your verdict with Naby Keita? Do you see something in him, or are you thinking, he's in the prime of his career? Let's sell him. We could get some decent money.
Well, when they actually brought him in, like you said, the summer of 2018, although the fee was agreed before, I was really hoping that they would bring in Nabil Fekir instead,
Mm,
from Lyon at the time, now at Real Betis. But that's the number 8 that although he kind of moves around, he's not a traditional number 8 player, especially now at Betis. But I thought he would have been a better fit for the club than Naby Keita, and there may have been some persuasion there from Sadio Mane. They were former teammates and also good friends, and so that might have been a factor. But you're right, since Keita came in, he's had a couple really boss performances where he has just looked really well, really linking up play around the top of the box, and is a good defender when he has to be, a good passer of the football. But I you need players, especially midfielders, to be consistently healthy and to be able to put in a shift for you when their number's called. And he hasn't been able to do that. So especially like I said, with Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain sticking around, I feel like he might be one of those players that they could go out and look to get a transfer fee that's a reasonable price for him, and like you said, sign him for 60 million, which is quite a lot. But I think he still has some value, especially if he can prove that he's able to stay healthy.
yeah. Yeah. That's perfectly explained. And I heard there's interest from Atletico Madrid. I don't know how on earth Naby Keita is going to fit into a Diego Simeone's side.
Yeah,
Because
that
I don't know
seems
how that
ugly.
will work. I'm confused at that rumor myself, but let's look at the next guy. We have Sheridan Shaqiri. Let's be real. I mean, Liverpool spent pennies on him. I think there was a clause in his contract when Stoke City got relegated that he could be brought in for just 13 million pounds. Brought in, and I mean, for 13 million pounds, he's more than proved his worth. He scored some very important goals and has provided some very important assists. Let's not forget that 4-0 rout of Barcelona. The third goal from Wijnaldum, I think it was the header. Shaqiri was the one who put the ball in the box for that.
Yes.
And he's definitely but after that first season, he's just kind of fallen out. Like he's some match days he's in the squad, some days he's not even there, some days he's left on the bench, some days he plays the last 20, some games he starts. I honestly just don't even know what's going on with this guy. But what's your verdict with Sheridan Shaqiri? Would you say yeah, definitely keep him around, good squad player, or would you, or kind of like Keita, would you say, nah, we can, even though he's almost 30, you could still get some decent money for him? See you later.
Well, out of all of the names on this list, I think he is the quickest that I will get rid of, uh, especially with the signing of Diogo Jota, who has I think become the player that many Liverpool fans thought that Shaqiri and Jurgen Klopp and the ownership and thought that Shaqiri might become when they signed him for Stoke. Like you said, pennies that they
Yeah.
brought him in for. And he did have a good season where he was kind of like that 12th man, that substitute for whoever was out of form in the top three. And so he did have some great goals. I'm remembering two away at Manchester United and a 3-1 victory.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Both
yeah, yeah. Let's not talk too much about that one.
both heavily deflected, but I mean, he had a decent season. But I mean, now when I see his number getting called and him off the bench, I'm disappointed. And I love the guy. He's a his calves are insane. I have to respect the grind on that. And
That's facts.
he's scored some wonder goals for the Swiss national team, some bicycles. But I mean, for Liverpool, he hasn't done enough. And like you said, for the amount of money that we brought him in, even if we sell him, give him a transfer away, and make that money back. I think we could still get 13 million for him like we paid. So I think he's another player that we'll see the market later in the season.
Yeah, and actually going back to those two Shaqiri goals, at the end of the day, looking back, I was actually kind of happy, because if Manchester United got anything out of that game, Jose Mourinho would have still been in a job probably.
That's true.
And
Fair.
and he's gone, and I haven't really looked back on really regretting that decision since, even with the with Mr. Roller Coaster himself, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Into the last two, and starting off with Mr. Bobby Firmino. Now, Bobby Firmino has just been nothing but a really pivotal player. He signed in 2015 for a record, at the time it was like a record like 35-40 million pounds from Hoffenheim. This was a player that Manchester United were on the verge, and I mean on the verge of signing. Firmino was all in for it. And then Liverpool had a late interest, and Firmino's heart changed. And instead of playing for Louis van Gaal, he decided to play for Brendan Rodgers, then Jurgen Klopp later. Jurgen Klopp saw him as a very, very important part of his plans. And Roberto Firmino is what everybody says is why Salah or Mohamed Salah and Sadio Mane have been as good as they've been, because he's the glue that sticks it all together, which to a certain extent I agree with. But in terms of goal scoring, he's just not been there. I mean, I could literally just go in on Bobby Firmino for ages. I mean, I could go in on him for absolutely ages. But I mean, it's, if that Manchester United game hadn't happened, I would be waffling on about how Firmino is just been worse than Martial and worse than Aubameyang and worse than Giroud, but I can't, because Firmino just done us over. So I can't say too much about Firmino, can I? But one thing I can say is that he's been an outstanding servant to that club, and he's been literally a pivotal part to their success. Would you say, yeah, definitely keep him around. He's got the quality. I think he's approaching 28, 29. Or would you say, nah, you know what? There's some brilliant strikers out there. And you know what? I think it's time to cash in and get better.
Like you said, the Manchester United game really pivots most people's opinion of him, because it's recent in the mind. He seems to pull out one pretty impressive performance per season, whether it's that hat trick at home versus Arsenal, where he had one of the goals this season, absolutely
Well, come on, it's not very difficult to score against
Kolasinac on the
Arsenal.
floor.
It's not very difficult to score against Arsenal.
That's true. Worse.
It'd be more impressive to score, against Burnley than it is against Arsenal.
Well, as you see, we struggle with that. So,
well, there is no troll intended.
You're right. Well, Firmino, he's one that I'd keep around. Like you said, he's this glue that sticks the top three together, and he does have 9 goals this season, I believe, which is equal to Sadio Mane. So no one's really talking about getting rid of Mane just yet because of his poor form. And though Firmino's kind of on the same level as him, and Firmino's definitely provided more assists, and I feel down the stretch has shown more quality performances than Mane. Mane seems to be just really out of sorts, especially towards the latter half of the season. So I do see Firmino, he seems to be lacking confidence at the moment. He's passing up a lot of shot opportunities and trying to pass and supply for other teammates. And I think with a little bit of confidence, he could find himself next season maybe getting in the mid to high teens on goals. And I think he's still a good player for Liverpool, and one who should see the starting 11 week in and week out, even next season.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that side of it. But I mean, that game where Diogo Jota came in and he filled in at the 9, and him and Sadio Mane, Mohamed Salah, I think it was against Atalanta, I believe. When those three, I mean, I was thinking, is there going to be a new Liverpool trio at that point? Because it looked like Firmino's place was gone after that game, because those three were just playing so well together.
Yeah.
It was like that stretch of games there. They were playing super, super well. But yeah, I could definitely see the point of view of Firmino or Liverpool fans wanting Firmino to stick around. And lastly, we have Divock Origi. Most memorable for in the 2018-19 season, Mr. Super Sub himself. If and this is one thing I'll say: if you're a player and you're leaving a club, right, you want to leave that club, having the fans, remembering good things about you. And when he leaves that club, boy, those fans are going to have a lot of good memories about him. I remember Pickford being typical Pickford, the ball bouncing off the bar twice, and Divock Origi headering the ball in, just winning that game in the Merseyside derby. Then you have the 4-0 against Barca. I mean, corner taking quickly, Origi, that was literally his thing. Sealing the Champions League final, scoring that second goal. And then in that summer, he signed a new 5-year contract. And some people raised some question marks. Some people thought, he's 24. Why is he happy to just be a backup? And Divock Origi has been throwing it on the wings. He's been throwing it up front. He's a decent squad player to have around. And I'll sort of ask the same question as I did with Firmino. Would you say, yeah, definitely keep him, he's a decent squad player to have? Or would you say, nah, he's approaching his prime, he's in his prime, you can get some money for him?
Well, this is a player that I could possibly see going out, signing on a loan deal somewhere. Um, like you said, you've been saying he is a decent squad player, and I think with some day-to-day match play, honestly, I think he could really progress. Especially, I said that Firmino would stick around. That would mean even less playing time for Origi, and so I think a loan move, maybe to a mid-table club in Germany or somewhere in Spain, could really help him to progress as a striker. And Liverpool seem to be going away from the system that would benefit Origi, more of that tall central striker where the ball's played to your feet, back to goal, that kind of play. Whereas they've kind of opted for the link-up play of Firmino, driving towards goal, splitting from left to right. So Origi's really become out of favor. But like you said, he's Mr. Clutch. He scored some really pivotal goals over the years, especially like Champions League final, Barcelona game, of course. The final goal in the Barcelona game, corner taken quickly, like you said, will never be forgotten by Liverpool fans until the day they die. So I think he's a player that you try to keep close, but I think a loan move would really benefit him, and you could do a loan with an option to buy maybe after the midway mark of the season, and if he progresses, you strike up a new deal, see if he wants to come home, or if he's the same. If he's not really performing similar to how he is at Liverpool, then maybe you look to send him off to a new club.
All right. Well, there you have it for the keep or the stay or go list. And one bit of banter. I think it was about a week. I think it was about a week ago. One of my friends was really going in on Trent Alexander-Arnold, and look, Trent Alexander-Arnold has had a very poor season by his standards because they've been so high for so long. And he called him the English Hector Bellerin, and I just sat there for a minute. I was like, okay, hold on a minute. He's not a great season by any means. He's even his crossing doesn't look quite as good, and he hasn't been the greatest of defenders. But I just want to get your thoughts on.
That's disgraceful. Like you said, I mean, he's been out of form this season, but in my opinion, he's still one of the top five, if not top three, right backs in English football. So I mean, the lad's 21 years old. I mean, like you said, the high that he has been on for the last really 2 seasons, maybe you could say three, really 2 seasons, just really been incredible, setting all sorts of records for assist totals for a right back. And there has been talk of moving him to a right-sided midfielder, but I think he went through a bad run of form, but I think really that England snub from Southgate really put a charge in him, and he has been putting together some better performances of late.
He was
Playing some
brilliant in the
Super
Manchester
Balls.
United game. He was
He
phenomenal.
was. He was, and playing some Super Balls in against Burnley, and he's had a couple more looks at goal than he does usually than he had previously in the season. So I think his form is improving, and to call him the English Hector Bellerin, wow, that is.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean,
I don't know what to say to that as well. It's disgusting.
I'd honestly say I agree with that. I mean, Trent Alexander-Arnold, he can cross the ball, and as far as I've seen, he's always been able to take throw-ins. So I mean, I really don't get that comparison whatsoever. I mean, it's like saying McFred is a better defensive midfielder than Declan Rice. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's blasphemous.
Fair, McFred, love it.
Don't get me started on McFred, man. Because I swear I will go on a rant for ages if people start getting me on McFred. Anyways, the second part of the show, and when and where should Klopp prioritize in the summer? There's, I think you and I are already. There's one area which is priority number one, but and in addition to that, are there any like specific player names who you feel like, yeah, they'd be a great fit for Liverpool? I mean, we already mentioned before, Ibrahima Konate looks as if he's set to join from RB Leipzig. Daya Upamecano's partner in crime, brilliant young center back, very, very good player. Seems like he's on his way to Anfield. What other areas of the field would you address?
Well, there are a few we've mentioned: striker, maybe a backup keeper, obviously, maybe some center back. But there's one player that has really impressed me this season against Liverpool, and that's Bobby Reed from Leeds United. And so he doesn't really fit in the Liverpool
You mean
squad
from
because we
Fulham?
have. Oh, Fulham. Yes, you're right. Thank you for correcting me. Fulham, a team who didn't have a great season in their promotion, but he's impressed. I think he scored both times that we played them this season, and although he fits the same real position as Trent, kind of more of a right wing back, I could see him maybe being a player that could fill in for Trent if we choose to move Trent to the right side of midfield. And I think Fulham wouldn't let him go, but I think that could be a name that might be a little bit off radar that Liverpool could really look to sign to strengthen that right side of the defense, because I don't think that Nico Williams is really an answer when Trent is off the field at all. And I think he could also fit in a couple more positions like a right-sided midfielder or being a good substitute. So I think that's a name that maybe might not people be looking at, but who really impressed me this season. A stretch, if we're looking at new strikers, Patrick Bamford possibly. Another player that I know is heavily linked with a couple other clubs, and I don't think that he will be leaving, but more of a traditional poacher, someone who
And Edinson Cavani kind of
to
player.
bag goals, even when he's out of form. Yeah, that seems to be a player, something that Firmino has been lacking this season. He has just struggled to find the back of the net. So a player like him bringing in, if a player like Firmino does go and we have some money to spare, making a bit of a splash for an up-and-coming English striker could be a good play. But besides that, no specific names. I think as of now, I think it's hard to see direct position for position improvements if all of our players are healthy. But you see this year when one or two players go out with a long-term injury and your whole season can derail. So, just competent backups at all position would be lovely.
All right, fair enough. And our last segment of the show, players of the season and disappointments of the season. Who would your top three players of the season be? Which they're few and far to choose from when you're looking at the positives in terms of Liverpool standards. But the positive news is when you're looking at your top three disappointments, there are lots to choose from without any banter thrown in there. I mean, who would your top three players of the season be? Well, we all know Nat Philips is going to get player of the season, so I mean, we can just skip that one.
True. I mean, he is up there for me, but actually, the player of the season he's been overlooked, but it has to be Mo Salah for me.
Yeah,
he's
definitely.
He's bagged 21 goals, tied for the Golden Boot with Harry Kane, and I see him actually eclipsing Kane. Liverpool have a much easier schedule, and Salah's really been on form, scoring a lovely goal over the weekend, like a snapshot, traditional left-footed curler.
Yeah.
He seems to be getting more on form, so I do see him, if not tying, actually winning the Golden Boot for a third time in 4 years, which people have been kind of dissing Salah for his, I don't know, poor form, you could say, this season. But I mean, if poor form is still bagging mid-20s goals, I mean, what a player. So he's got to be my player of the season for me. He seems to just bag goals when we need them, like I said, and I think he's still on form. And I know a lot of bigger clubs have shown to be suitors for Salah. Recently, I've seen PSG perhaps maybe going to a club in Spain. But I mean, I'd really be sad to see him go. And I think he does still have great seasons at Liverpool. So besides Salah, I would say a player like Andy Robertson has really put in a shift at left back this season.
Yeah, he's been very good, but he's also gone under the radar a little bit, Andy Robertson.
He has.
There's just been so many other things that have just been looked at, and he just doesn't really. I completely forgot about Andy Robertson, but he's still playing well. He's still been decent this season.
I mean, I think he's kind of taken a step back from the assist race with Trent, but really proved that he is a stout left back defender, and he's really he's shown that in Champions League games he really can come over to defend these fast wingers. Like he although he was on Trent's side, he made a couple darting runs to stop the attack of Vinicius against Real Madrid a couple times, and he really
not Vinicius Jr.
I know he did us dirty, but I mean he's really shown to be a great reader of the game, and he's got to be one of the greatest steals of all time. 4 million, I believe it was, from Hull City.
5 million, I think it was.
Yeah, he's worth
Hull City.
Even with a poor season, he's still probably worth about 100 million. So, I mean, he's a great player, and I think he has, like you said, under the radar, but still put in a great season, especially defensively. Put in an absolute shift at left back. And I do have to go with Nat Philips for that third position.
Yes. Nat Philips.
I mean, Fabinho also has had Fabinho's had a pretty back, and also now that he's back in his CDM role, he has seemed to be playing better. But Philips, I mean, you couldn't have really asked for more. He's had a couple of mistakes. He's had a couple of poor matches, but with no one really to look up to, just being placed at center back at one of the biggest clubs in the world at such a young age with little to no first team experience, I think you couldn't have really asked for more from him. And I think this experience will be great for him going forward, being a pivotal, maybe starter or substitute for the club in the future. So those are my Salah, Robertson, and Phillips will have to be my top three.
And now into the top three disappointments of the season, which there are lots. There are lots of disappointments this season, but you can only choose three. Who would you say?
Number one on my list has to be Sadio Mane. It has to be Mane. He had a good run of form at the beginning, fallen off the ledge, and has been out of form for a large part of the season with Jota taking his place, kind of been in and out with injury. But I mean, you expect more from him, especially given his season that he had last year. And two seasons ago, or was it last season? 2 seasons ago, tying Salah for the Golden Boot. So, I mean, you expect more from him, and to produce 9 goals as your starting left winger, I mean, you have to see better than that. Salah has more than double him. So, I mean, he's been the biggest disappointment for me. Another disappointment has been Allison. I mean, it's hard to say it's hard to say that after him being so heroic at the weekend, but I mean,
Yeah,
he's
that
known
stretch
for
of
his ball.
games.
I know he's known for his ball playing ability. He's a Brazilian keeper. Um, his little dink over his little chip dink over a Brighton winger, I believe it was a season ago, just shows what he's capable of. But he looks to be unsettled with the ball at his feet. Maybe that is because of the center backs he's not used to playing the ball. But he hasn't really made the saves that I believe he's capable of, and his work with his feet has just been dreadful. He made 2 or 3 errors against Man City, really costing us a chance in that game. Phil Foden capitalized on one, Sterling on
He was
another.
awful against Man City,
mean,
and then he was
yeah,
abysmal against Leicester as well.
yeah. I mean, even saves that for I believe he is still considered one of the top 5 keepers in world football, in my
Oh yeah,
opinion. He just
definitely.
has had it. But for that caliber, he should be pulling off more worldy saves than I think he does. And I I think I think he has more to aim for. He's had a hard couple of weeks with the passing of his father,
Mhm.
a couple other family incidents, but I think I expect better from him. Paid 72 million for him, so he should be doing a little bit better and keeping more clean sheets. And I am taking into consideration the lack of center back continuity, but I still think he should be doing a little bit better in goal. And so, with that being said, my last disappointment, I'm gonna go with a tie between Thiago and Trent.
Oh, Thiago's been underwhelming.
Um,
He's been beyond underwhelming. Thiago. I mean, he came in. The price was small. I think it was 20 million pounds from Bayern Munich. But let's be real. If he had at least
yeah,
3 years left on his deal, that deal would be around 100 million pounds because that season
yeah,
before Bayern, that was one of his best seasons, and he's approaching
yes,
his
he
30s.
made the team of the year. Yeah, I still think he has a lot of potential. You've really seen the last couple of games he's been uh, kind of coming to form, scoring his first goal, and he does look a little bit more lively on the ball, especially in defense. He hasn't been giving up as many sloppy fouls, being less yellow cards, seeming to be more active in the press, especially him and Fabinho with that partnership in midfield seems to be doing well. I really like the midfield three of him, Thiago, Fabinho, and Curtis Jones. I really think that's the best midfield three we have at the moment. And with Jones there, that really gives Thiago the license to kind of take more of a Tony Cruz role, just to sit back and ping and play balls around the field. And I think it really has been disappointing. I expected a lot more from him. Like you said, he had an incredible season at Bayern, and there was so much hype about bringing him in. And then when it finally happened, and he started getting on the pitch, it took Liverpool, I think, 7 games to win at home with him in the squad. So I mean, like, it was a disappointing run of form, but I think he's kind of breaking out of it, and I think I do expect him with a more solid midfield three to have a better season next year. And like we've been talking about with Trent, I mean, man, what can you say? I'm especially in his defending, he's had some atrocious games, but again, like Thiago, I think he is coming out of it, and he will improve and be able to find his form again at the start of next season, and hopefully in the Champions League as well.
Yeah. We said it about Trent and Thiago. I remember back in January, a Liverpool fan tried to tell me that Thiago is better than Bruno Fernandes,
Oh
and I'm just like,
no,
come on, just go
nah,
away. even other Liverpool fans would think you're smoking something. But
That's not true.
yeah. Anyways.
I clear even with age that and the. Oh, go ahead.
Are you good?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
And we're coming towards the end of the show. Is there anything else you wanted to mention real quick before we wrap the show up?
Summer, I wanted to get your take on both the Euros and where the USMNT stands in your opinion, and we can chat a little bit about what our opinions. First of all, who's your favorite for the Euros?
I mean, I'm repping my boys England, but if there is one thing I have learned with England, it is never, and I mean never be convinced by them. Do not put your money on England when it comes to the games that matter most, because they have bottled it. They are bottle jobs and they proved it. Euro 2016 lost against Iceland. The World Cup semifinals lost to Croatia, which they never in a million years should have lost. They should have battered Croatia with the chances that they had. I mean,
it's true.
But in terms of favorites, I probably have to say between France and Portugal.
Wow, no Belgium.
I think Belgium's overrated in my opinion. I think they're a good side. They are a good side, but I just think defensively that's where they're going to be weak.
Yeah, that's true. They can't rely on the Tottenham boys, Alderweireld and Vertonghen. Like that's not a good center back partnership. You can't have that and be winning international tournaments.
And their golden generation is kind of gone as well. Like they don't really have that golden generation with them in terms of age or not. I mean, Eden Hazard. I mean, his best year was, that 20. Was that spell between 2016 and 2019. That was by far his best spell.
Fellaini?
Player.
How about Fellaini though?
You make a good point. You can't forget Fellaini. I mean, he'll probably come in clutch. But yeah, in terms of favorites, I think it's going to be between France and Portugal.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think Portugal. I'm really rooting for Portugal, honestly. I think it's become clear that a couple Portuguese players are really standouts among the squad, Fernandes and Jota. And I mean, they already have a pretty
Ruben
good
Diaz, Bernardo Silva, and you're forgetting about arguably, the best player in the world for the past 15 years, arguably.
I mean, yeah, I'm just saying that like players this season who have really emerged as top talent, and yeah, like you said, they already have Cristiano Ronaldo, they have Bernardo Silva, they have
João Cancelo as well.
João Cancelo, yeah. I mean, they have a more than decent squad, and if you look at when they won the Euros, what was that, 4 years ago now?
Mm-hmm.
Their squad was weak, and especially with Ronaldo out, I mean, like Renato Sanchez was like one of their best players. So I mean, like they have a much better squad now, and I think they have that passion and that camaraderie. And in friendlies and in qualifying, they really have looked the form. So I think I agree. I'd have to agree with you that Portugal is one of the top teams, and definitely don't bet on England. Definitely don't bet on England.
No, I will never bet on England. I'd love to see, the lads bring it home, but it just won't happen.
It's not going to happen.
Anyways, anything else to say before we wrap the show up?
USMNT, give me a 1 minute take
on the U.S. men's national team.
Yeah, so what do you have to say?
I mean, in terms of players abroad, I mean, they have some brilliant young players coming in. I mean, Christian Pulisic obviously is 22 years old. I think he's 22 years old. He's leading the line, or he should be starting at Chelsea week in, week out. But Thomas Tuchel, I don't know what it is with Timo Werner. I don't know what it is. I
Me
don't know.
neither. It's disappointing.
I don't know if Timo Werner has like Thomas Tuchel nudes or whatnot. I mean, I don't know, but he's starting week in, week out. I don't really get that. Wesley Mckinney, another brilliant young player. Serginho Dest. I mean, they have a good core coming through. I mean, I don't know a whole lot about the U.S. men's national team. Surprisingly, just because it's not really my area of expertise. But they definitely have a good core coming in.
Yeah, I mean, now's the time. I feel like if they, like you were talking about Belgium's golden generation, within the next real 5 years, I think these younger players will really have some European experience. Like you said, Serginho Dest, wow, what a player. I mean,
Yeah.
he's 18 years old or 19 years old maybe now, and he's bagging assists for Messi and great goals week in and week out for Barcelona. So, I mean, really in less than a season, he just nabbed the starting job from Sergio Roberto, or he's a right back, maybe not Roberto, but I mean he grabbed the starting job at 18 years old, and Gio Reyna for Dortmund is another player.
Yeah, I forgot about Gio Reyna.
I think they have potential. I mean they need it. I think they have some potential, but it's gonna take a little.
Yeah. All right. And with that, we have reached the end of our show. If you liked and love what you've seen from man like Liam, smash a like on this video. And look and subscribe to the channel and look at our other platforms in the description below. And wherever you are watching this in the world, have a great day / good evening.